How much money you want?
45 grand.
45?
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
Thank you.
25% interest.
25%.
Yeah, you can't handle that? And that's a discount.
You want me to sign for this, son?
The only ink that runs around here is blood. You better remember that.
All right, have and have not fans, hope everyone is ready for my first official cast interview with one of the talented members of the show behind the channel, the haves and the have-nots. Now, just a quick announcement, as always, I know the promo has been in rotation since sometime, Tuesday night. However, if you haven't seen it yet for whatever reason, because I posted on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, and I've already done a couple videos on it here on the channel, August 25th, we are not just getting one episode, we're getting 2 episodes. So make sure on August 25th, you plant yourselves in front of your TV, laptop, mobile device, however you want to watch it, even though I suggest a bigger screen to take everything in. 2 episodes starting at 8 p.m. Eastern time. 2 episodes is episodes 11 and 12 of season 7. Also, do me a favor, I will put the links in the top comment. I'll pin it to the top comment in the comment section below. Make sure to follow Mr. Oscar Torre on social media. Great guy to talk with, hence how we got this interview arranged. So let's go ahead and show you just another look at Mr. Vinny Malone. And after that, we'll go right into the interview. And before doing so, make sure you show this channel some love by hitting the thumbs up button to like the video. Click the bell, hit all, that way you're notified whenever I post new content. Also hit subscribe and follow me on social media. Links are in the description below.
You don't get them? I will. For my interest.
Come on, man. Just buy me a little bit of time. You know I'll get that money.
Listen, I'm not talking about this with you. Your friend, this guy Benny, he didn't have the decency. The decency, he's got $8 million in the bank, and he doesn't have the decency to bring me my money. I told Mama Rose that I would get her the money plus the interest. That's why she called it off.
All right, have and have not fans, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. My first Zoom interview with one of the talented, one of the amazing actors from, I want to say our show, because it's the show that made the channel, the haves and the have-nots. You might know him as Vinny Malone. He's not rocking the Malone attire in this particular video, but let's give it up for Mr. Oscar Torre. I mean, this is an honor.
The honor's mine. You're the expert in the haves and the have-nots, so it's my pleasure to talk to you.
Wow, okay. I mean, folks, we had a little warm-up conversation before the interview started. Let me tell you, when we get to the Malone portion of the interview, my gosh, the fish will be flying in more ways than one. So many questions, so many behind-the-scenes stories I want to know. So we're going to take it back to the beginning in terms of what was it that made you pursue acting to begin with?
It started in college. My dream wasn't to be an actor, it was to be a baseball player. Hence, I'm wearing a baseball hat, Twins. Not my favorite team, but I did like the colors.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
No, that's a nice hat. But I wanted to be a baseball player. And in college, I ended up taking an acting class by chance. It wasn't planned. Trust me, I was very shy at the moment. And I had to do an acting exercise in the class. And that's when I got hooked. I forgot that I was acting. I forgot that I was on stage. I forgot that there was an audience and this is fake. And that was the moment that and I'm like, I didn't want to admit it to myself, but I'm like, I think I want to do this. But then again, of course, that voice inside your head comes in and says, you know how difficult this is? How many people want to be actors? What makes you think you can be an actor? You live in Miami. All those things. At the time, I lived in Miami. I live in LA now, but at that time I was in Miami, and there wasn't a lot going on there. So, but that's when it first started, and then I started getting work as an actor, even though I was horrible at the beginning. But I knew I was horrible. I think that was a key. I wasn't lying to myself. And I figured if I can get work being as bad as I am, when I improve, it's going to be a lot easier. Wasn't the case, but that got me in the right, the right path, in the right, it started me dreaming of this as a potential career.
Nice. I mean, that's usually the best part, when you don't realize that you kind of stumbled into your calling, especially when you never saw it coming to begin with. And I like the fact that you were self-aware at the beginning, and now look at you. That's amazing. That's amazing. I felt the same way when I did my first. It's hard to go back to some of my early videos, and I'm just like, oh man, the audio and everything was choppy. This was back in the days when I was in the walk-in closet recording on the floor because I thought recording in my room would be too loud, and I'm like, no, I can't do this. So just learning about the acting process when you were in college. Now let's kind of shift gears. What were some of your early projects before the days of the haves and the have-nots?
I had done a few projects in Miami that got me started and that made me think, well, I can do this. I can act. I started in a film called Freedom, which was about a political prisoner in Cuba, and it was successful in Miami, and among the Cuban community, mostly because it was a Cuban story about a political prisoner. And so that was my first taste of like, I can do this and I can carry a film. And I really enjoyed doing this. And then I moved to LA, and then I had a period there in LA that, nothing was going on. I couldn't get arrested if I tried, literally. But then I booked a Lionsgate film that was in Spanish called To Rob a Thief. That was the title in English. Ladrón que roba ladrón. Try pronouncing that. That's a mouthful. So I did that film. But that movie didn't come out like right away. It came out like a year later. In the process, after having done that movie, I booked a role in a CBS show. That was a high-profile show called Kane, with Jimmy Smits, Rita Moreno. Rita Moreno is one of the few people who won all the awards you can win for a performer, actor, Emmy, Grammy, Tony, and I'm missing one, and Golden Globes.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was part of that. It was a huge superstar cast, and I had one of the main roles on the show. And the role wasn't that great the first episode, and then it kept growing. And that gave me a taste of what it was like to work in Hollywood and to have a big role in a high-profile show. So that opened a lot of doors for me. That opened a lot of doors because then I ended up doing a bunch of mostly CBS shows, because it was on CBS. So I did CSI Miami, I did Cold Case, I did The Mentalist, I did NCIS, I did all those CBS shows. So obviously that gave me a lot of experience. And then fast forward, I booked The Hangover 3, which, that was a big film.
That's one of my favorite clips that you post on your Instagram. Like every time I see you repost that clip, I'm like, it's like a meme that I see over, and no matter how many times I see it, I'm going to laugh.
Yeah. That's a theory. I love that line. I go, well, that's the theory. When I tell Bradley Cooper, just give me some BS. I go, well, that's a theory. And that was a dream, because I was a fan of both films, and suddenly I'm on the third one, and the movie went on to make a lot of money, and a lot of people saw it. People loved that scene that I was in. So that it's all these little things along the way that start, changing your career. And then I had a brief period where I did Queen of the South, but that was about it. The show Queen of the South. I did one episode of Queen of the South, and right after Queen of the South, like a month later, I auditioned for the Haves and the Have-Nots here in LA with Kim Coleman. She cast in LA. And man, I didn't think I was going to get it, honestly. I went in, I saw a lot of actors who I recognized from mob films and shows and all that. And, they looked a character. They looked like what I thought Vinny Malone would look like. And thought So I didn't think I'd get it. And later on, I found out that the reason why I got it, they told me, production told me, we believe that you're capable of being Vinny Malone, the way you did. And it was a line that I delivered in the audition. That the audition was a scene with Tyler Lepley and Brett with Benny. He asked me for money. That was my audition.
Yeah.
He asked me for money, and I say, well, tell this kid what happens if he can't pay. But I just said it like that. I did it very matter of factly. I just said, well, tell this kid what happens if he can't pay. And it ended up that it was so simple. The way I did it was so simple and straightforward, and I'm not trying to threaten you. It's a fact.
Yeah.
That's the way I put it. And that moment probably was the thing that got me the role.
Nice. And if I'm not mistaken, that's from the very first scene that Vinny Malone was shown in, right?
That was the first scene that Vinny Malone was shown in. Wasn't the first scene I shot.
Oh, I believe that. Like, the more I learn from behind the scenes in terms of how things are shot, I'm like, wow. And that leads into the next question, like, what was it like working with Tyler Perry? Now, I can only imagine, like, almost like the Malone family, like we were talking about before the interview, like a well-oiled machine, but you're always on your toes, and there's some changes that might happen last minute, but then like the script could be like a skeleton, and if you could add your little own pieces to it, it just brings the characters to life. So if you could just tell us what it was like on set with the other cast members, that would be fantastic.
Everybody was great. Everybody was very welcoming. Brett Davis, funny enough, Brett Davis and I have a mutual friend. So my friend told me about Brett, and so I knew a little bit about him going in. But obviously all I knew about Tyler Perry was everything, everybody knows, but I had never met him.
Yeah.
Here I am on set, and my first scene that I shot on the show was the hospital scene. So
wow,
I literally met Tyler Perry with you can almost say with my butt hanging out, wearing the hospital robe. And we did the scene. We did that scene that I'm laying on the hospital bed, and I say, I tell Brett Davis, Mitch, all the information where it's under the, there's a computer under the bar, and the ATM is connected to the computer. Get him. I want to know who did this to me. I want to know.
Yeah.
All that. That basically I thought was a rehearsal. And then I see everybody move out of the hospital room, and I'm laying there with a bathrobe, and I'm like, what's going on? And somebody tells me, oh, we got it. We're moving on to the next scene. Like, wow, that was fast. Because, you're used to working on other shows, and you do, man, other shows, you shoot the hell out of scenes.
Yeah.
This angle, that angle, or this and that, let's go again, over the shoulder, and next thing you spent 2 hours in a scene easily on other shows. And let's say Hangover, we spent half a day in one scene, just half a day, being covered from every angle possible. So here I am on Tyler Perry's universe, and I thought it was a rehearsal, and they're like, no, he loved it. We're moving on. You're done. I'm like, really? Wow, that was fast. And so I quickly learned, and I knew he was fast, but I quickly learned how fast he was. And I love the way he works. Now I love the way he works. And as a director myself, I'm in awe how quickly he moves and how he gets everything he needs and how he does it. So for me, it's a treat being on set and actually standing back, taking the Vinny Malone hat off and like looking at him like, okay, what is he doing? Oh, wow. Okay, he shot it this way. He moved the cameras. He came in for the close. He did everything everybody does in 2.5 hours. He did it in took me longer to walk there than to shoot the scene.
That's the one thing I admire, because whenever I do reviews, I make a point. I'm like, whoa, the lighting in this scene was phenomenal, or like the close up or the pan. There are moments in certain episodes that blow me away. I think one of my favorite aspects when they moved from like season 4 to 5. Sometimes I just noticed a huge increase in, it's hard for me to even use the word quality, because going back to like season 1, it truly felt like a daytime soap at night. But as the show went on, it felt more, what's the word I'm looking for? Cinematic in regards to the
Dramatic,
camera
totally.
works, especially
The
when I think
lighting,
the trailers. Man,
the bar, the way the lighting in that bar, how moody
yeah.
it is. I'm always like, you never see my face fully lit.
No.
You always see like a darkness, and like, there's light and there's darkness, which is very cinematic and helps me as an actor
Mhm.
to tell this story, because you look at it and the audience, even though they don't know, they're thinking, okay, there's some good on in this guy, maybe, but there's the side of his face that I can't see.
Yeah.
And it's menacing, and it's, so it makes my job a lot easier. And that's the director doesn't get credit for that. In this case, Tyler Perry.
I guess you could say in moments like that where the director, they set the mood with the lighting and whatnot, which helps kind of bring out the character and gives those subtle hints to the audience about what this character is about.
Oh, a bunch of things, how they shoot you, where they place the camera. I mean, the audience doesn't know this, but it's where they place the camera.
Yeah.
A lot of times they always shoot me up. So you're looking up to me a lot.
That's
So
true.
it makes you more intimidating. Little things, little things that makes your job easier. And of course, you as the actor, then you have to deliver it.
Oh yeah.
If I talk like this, it's not gonna be believable that Vinny Malone is this. So you have to bring it. And if you don't bring it, you won't last long, That's
Oh yeah. Especially
everybody,
like a fast moving environment like that.
you have to, or else you're gonna cost them money. You're gonna
Mhm.
cost the production money, and it's just not gonna work out. I mean, you can be a great actor, but you might not be right for the show. And it happens all the time in movies. People get replaced.
That's one thing I kind of noticed about the haves and the have-nots, where there have been plenty of times when a cast member will do an interview, when they've been on the show for longer, because it's like, Tyler brought me in for a one-off appearance or 2 or 3 appearances, and then he calls back saying, hey, I just thought of a way to expand your role. So there have been a lot of stories where several characters have come in for one role, but I feel like Tyler was so blown away by the performance that they decided to expand my character greater. Some that I think of off the bat are Maggie Day and Erica. Those are the 2 that come to my mind first, because they said that their appearances were supposed to be brief. Like Maggie was supposed to be in a couple episodes. Erica was supposed to be there to give Benny the car, and then that was it. So I can only imagine where you can have a character like a Malone, where I would say that they had a handful of appearances back in like season 1, and then they really started to become more, I guess you could say, Tyler dug more into that family as the show went on. But kind of backtracking to what you were saying before about the pacing, I love documentaries. I love documentaries. So
Me too.
I think, I can't even decide what my favorite genre. I think like music, movies, and like history or historical ones are my favorite. I know there are some TV shows, it blew my mind to find out like, oh yeah, like one episode of this show is like, has a budget of $1.4 million or something like that. And it takes X amount of weeks to film it. And I'm like, what? Whereas Tyler Perry films like, give or take a season of a show within 1.5 to 2 weeks. So
Very
it's
quickly,
just the,
very
oh,
quickly,
very quickly. I mean, you got to be on your toes, but at the same time, when you look back at the finished project, it must be mind blowing, which leads to the next question. What has been some of your favorite parts or favorite scenes about playing Vinny Malone so far?
My least favorite was laying on the floor.
I can imagine.
That was my least favorite. And I'm sure it was Vinny's least favorite. So I'm sure he and I have that in common. The fact that I got stabbed. The fact that I got stabbed and I almost died on the show, it really pissed me off. So it made my job a lot easier, how being pissed off at the fact that I had to lay on the ground for 3 episodes.
Oh, it was 3 episodes. It was 3 episodes because I remember.
Because it all took place in a day. Those 3 episodes took place in that day.
Yeah. Oh, that's because Wyatt just got strung out the night before because I think the bartender vouched for him, was like, look at the car outside. He got the money. Give it to him. And then he's like, okay, well, if you take this, I can't do a good Vinny impression, but if you take this and I don't give him money, I'm going to beep you up. Because the thing about the haves and the have-nots that gets me, sometimes they bleep out words and other times they don't. I'm like, wait, they bleeped that out 2 weeks ago, but they just let it fly this time. Okay.
My character curses a lot.
Oh,
I get to curse. It's funny. I was surprised when I got the first script and I'm saying I'm dropping F-bombs and like, where's this playing? On the Oprah network? Okay. Never heard Oprah say an F-bomb, but okay. So it's interesting. But I love playing that character. That's probably my least favorite, honestly. Because as an actor, you want to do things and you believe this character, you believe that you're this, this powerful guy, and suddenly this kid stabs me. I drop my guard, and you feel kind of dumb. So that fueled me, how pissed I was in every scene that I mentioned this incident. And I won't forget it. Vinny, I don't think Vinny is somebody who forgets what happened to him.
Plus,
if he gets a chance, he'll kill the person who did that to him. Doesn't matter what he said that he would do. I think Vinny would, he wouldn't take it. He doesn't take, like anybody in this position, who doesn't abide by the rules.
Yeah.
Vinny's probably king of that. So I think it makes it interesting, for me as an actor, and I don't know what's happening next. So it's always that, I get to do that, or I get to say this, or, that's the fun part, having the status, having always being right, even if I'm wrong, I feel like I'm right, and you come from that position. And then being able to play off Brett Davis and Michael Galante, it's Mitch and Sandy, which is like the odd couple right in front of me. But I love them like if they were my kids. And even though we're not the age difference is not that large, but it makes it fun. It brings humor.
Oh yeah,
it brings humor to the danger of of what could happen.
I noticed that in every scene, almost every scene between Mitch and Sandy, they're usually debating about something. Typically, the black kid Vinny or Candace. And whenever those two are about to walk out of a room, they have like an old married couple argument about, man, your car is jacked up as a piece of junk. Well, at least I got a car. Hey, stop making fun of my bike. Like, I noticed that when they were at the bar, when they were at the strip club looking for Vinny. It's like every scene they got that back and forth. And when it comes to Vinny, I know you said I could understandably be upset if you thought your character would be killed off. But the thing is, though, you got to look at it from the perspective of this punk kid almost killed me, but notice the reaction of how Vinny's possible death could have set off an entire war within the show. I mean, what was it? Mama Rose wanted to basically cause a plague in Atlanta or Savannah by putting blood all over the streets because somebody shot at her grandson. Now imagine if, somebody killed my child. Wait, Vinny is Mama Rose's son, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so somebody killed my child. Oh, it's about to go down. So it's like your potential death could have set it off.
I would say I'm probably her favorite son. Hence why he's the one that has the most power of all the children.
Yeah.
Think about it.
If I'm not mistaken, was it Mitch or someone who kind of mentioned that Vinny might, you want me to tell Mama Rose that you're, kind of playing outside of the rules, like doing your own thing behind the scenes? I think that was brought up in one episode. I can't remember.
One episode. It was when he gave me when I was trying to get more money out of the criers, I think. And Mitch had the money and whatever. And I said, I want more money. And and then he kind of said, I think he kind of implied, well, you're not even supposed to be getting this money. I forgot exactly what the wording was, but should I tell your mom? And I'm looking at Mitch like, look at this crybaby. He's gonna go tell my mom. And then I let it go. I go, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, you're right. Bananas Foster, because I think that was a lengthy scene towards the end of the episode because we hadn't seen Vinny in so long.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that also, yeah, that's another thing. It looks like Vinny really wants to get Mitch back into the family. It's like Mitch did a couple of assignments back in the day. He was apparently really good at it, but he just didn't want to be, I guess you could say, he wanted to make a name for himself outside of the Malones, it seems, but now they kind of want to bring him back into the fold. That's what it seems like they're going with the story so far.
And to me, it always feels like, oh, he comes to the Malones. He doesn't want to do anything with his world, with his family. That's his family. And that's what frustrates me as Vinny Malone is, hey, we're your blood. And you only come to me when you have a problem. So you don't want anything to do with a family, but when your friend needs a loan, oh, you bring him over here for me to give him a loan. When you need something to be taken care of, you come to me. You know, when your car breaks down, you call me to send a pickup. You know, that's the way I see it. You know,
I can see that.
But when everything's going well, you don't want anything to do with the family. So I think that makes it very interesting to me, my relationship with Mitch. And he gets away with a lot with me because I love him like a son. So he's that son that, you know, if he were anybody else, he'd be dead. But, you know,
he can only
vouches for this guy. He vouches for Benny, and then Benny doesn't pay, and Benny doesn't want to pay the interest and all this stuff. And, you know, and he expects me to go like, okay, oh, well, he didn't pay. He'll pay whatever he can. Send me food stamps. You know,
yeah, that's a good point. Like he has not had a job since after he got out of the coma and the bank foreclosed on everything. That's right. Oh yeah, that's right. Cause I was thinking to myself, it clicked. I know Vinny was like, whoa, so he can't pay us, but we know he has millions of dollars in his bank account. That's when Candace deposited the money. And
exactly,
the Malones found out about that. So I'm like, I just don't know how long the money the back and forth with the money's going to happen. Cause I'm just like, at some point it's going to crumble. I mean, Benny, your mama's in charge of the entire Cryer estate right now. So just give the money back. But I think that Mitch, one of the things that happened in the last episode, he kind of threatened Jim like, well, if you don't back off my friends, Benny and Kent, or the Young family, I'll tell my grandmother that you were messing with her grandchild. It's like, so you're going to talk down to Vinny about doing stuff behind Mama Rose's back, but you're going to toss around your name, and not only toss around the Malone. I've noticed Mitch has really been tossing that Malone chest of his around. Yo, I'm a Malone. Oh, okay. But I'm like, you're fixing to lie to your grandmother just to prove a point. Mm-hmm. That ain't going to go over too good. I don't care if you are Malone. I feel like no matter if you're the favorite child or whatever, you can only stretch that so far before that rubber band smacks you right directly in the face. That's just some wild stuff. I can't wait to see what's going to happen because, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have, as far as we know in terms of characters introduced, it's Vinny Malone, Mama Rose, Mitch Malone, Sandy Malone, and I feel like there's another Malone that I'm not naming. I think he had like silver hair, and he was at the bar.
He was one episode.
Yeah.
One episode. Which, fun fact, if you watch the movie Catch Me If You Can, and not Catch Me If You Can, DiCaprio, Martin Scorsese film about the guy with the stock market.
The big wolf, the wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
There's a hot scene in the movie with Margot Robbie that she's nude, and these two security guards are looking at the monitor and they're seeing everything that's going on in the room. He's one of the security guards.
Wow.
In the movie. That Malone.
Okay, I'm looking at my Blu-ray shelf. I actually have that movie on Blu-ray. I've never watched it. I picked it up at a food line.
When you look at that scene, it's one of the Malones as a security guard.
Malone, Okay, I'll justify watching that scene for research purposes.
Yeah.
All right, so that leads to the next big question here, and this is one we've been talking. How long have we been talking about this spin? I want to say it's been well over a year. I want to say it's been
Love
well
it.
over a year. I know I've
I
done
love it.
multiple videos. Just folks, we're putting this out there. If there was a Malone spinoff, or at the very least, the Malones popping up in other Tyler Perry universe projects, which technically speaking, that has happened. The Malones were mentioned in passing, and personally, one of my favorite Madea films that I feel is extremely underrated, Madea's Witness Protection. The Malones were an unseen, powerful force that drove the plot along. Now, if Tyler Perry were to ever introduce a Malone series or spin-off or a movie or whatever you want to go or take that, what would you want it to be focused on?
On Vinny Malone.
I don't see why not. I mean, I'm not going to argue with Malone, first of all. I'll tell you that right now. But
It would be. I think it would be about the Malones trying to gain, more power. This is me just throwing it out there. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But about the Malones trying to gain more power, about the relationship with the family, and I'm sure new characters will be introduced as part of the family, and the status and the powerful control, which happens in all these powerful families. People try to knock each other out, and then you have outside families but try to knock them out, and then you can have the whole police department and FBI being investigated constantly, which is part of the reality of when you're a crime boss. You're highly paranoid. People are trying to get to you, and so you have all these elements. You have politicians, you have politicians who take donations from Vinny Malone, and then they come out publicly and they denounce the Malones and all that. I think it can go a million different ways.
I'm actually looking something up here because when you said like two cartels kind of going at it, I pulled up from If Loving You Is Wrong. I know the character Julius Escada. I think, they were an entire cartel on If Loving You Is Wrong. And I think one of the potential crossover ideas that I know me, Chandler, and several other fans were talking about it, like, wow, I wonder if like the mob family from the Haves and the Have-Nots could meet up with the mob family from If Loving You Is Wrong. Maybe they'd be rival mobster families. Maybe they've had deals in the past, because typically, in the mobster gangster movies, that's usually how it is, where there's a disgruntled respect because at some points they might have had dealings in the past. Maybe one deal went sour because one family member had a beef with another, but at the end of the day, they kind of come together to both expand, but it gets to the point where, hey, there can only be one rhino in the zoo or something like that. So it could always be something to set it off. But I think a great way of doing that Malone series could be, I mean, there are just so many different routes. Like the series could kind of start off in a prequel-esque kind of thing. Like if you want to kind of take it back to before the Haves and the Have-Nots first started. We know that Catherine's father, I believe Hartgrave was her surname, he was a powerful man. Who's to say he didn't have Malone connections like Jim and David do? I mean, you can see like Mama Rose in her early days and how she eventually, because I think it was mentioned, the reason she took over is because her parents never had a son. So they had to, shift the power to the next of kin, which is her. So to be in the climate we're in now, where they're looking at more diverse characters and storylines, you could see, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I ever recall seeing a story of like a woman in a mobster position taking over. Like what were her struggles, coming the head of the family?
Especially not in an Italian family. I mean, there's a reality of the godmother, the Colombian godmother, who they've done a couple movies about. And she was dangerous.
That would be great.
Dangerous. There's a great documentary on that, on her. There's two documentaries.
Is it on Netflix or just?
It was on Netflix. Now it might be on Tubi TV, I think.
Okay.
The godmother, Griselda Blanco is her name, Colombian.
All right. Because
And yeah, and it's very much like the Malones.
I mean, because I look at some of these things that Tyler writes, and I think, wow, I wonder where he pulls some of the inspiration from. I mean, sometimes it's easy to tell when current events are kind of, dripped into the script, and then we see it in live action. But I'd love to see, like, a coming of age story of the Malones, like how they got started up, Mama Rose going up the ranks, because you would think there would be some kind of bias, like a lot of male characters, like, man, I could run this organization better than her. I mean, for all we know, there could have been inner family turmoil, like a power struggle. And then it got to the point where everybody understood their respective rank. Now, I also think that his show Ruthless on BET Plus, which is a spinoff or connected series to The Oval, like that was Tyler in a realm I never knew he can go in, like focused on a just a powerful deranged cult. And I'm thinking that, to me personally, is his best Viacom project so far. Sisters, Oval, bruh, but Ruthless I feel is at the top. So I feel that if he can create a show that's really out there, I think it's possible for him to do a Malone show to that scale, that degree, because
That
of all the
dark.
different connections. I think
I
it
hope
works.
so, man. I really hope so.
Mhm.
Because obviously, his shows are all successful and they have a long life.
Oh yes.
So I wouldn't mind, playing Vinny Malone for a longer period of time. And especially that I love the role. He's fun to play. It's fun to have that power and to have that status and to be that dangerous.
Oh yeah. I can agree with that, just seeing the way it's portrayed and how you talk about it, obviously. I mean, aside from the dangerous and power aspect, I just love the stories from behind the scenes of the real, like, family unit that forms, even in the quick amount of time you might be at Tyler Perry Studios to film. I know a lot of casts have said in the past how it felt like a summer camp where even after we finish filming, we still keep in touch. And then when we get back together, it's like, boom, the magic is already back there. So you just jump right into the role.
Oh,
or in this case,
totally,
the yellow leather jacket. I like that.
Yeah, we all get. I mean, especially when you work with each other, the actors that you work. There's such a huge cast that obviously there's people that I've never worked with. There's people that I've never even met that I see on the show because we happen to be on different days and we never one side and there's others that I've become friends with that I've never shot with, but we've hung out at the hotel together.
Nice.
We go out to have Keith Burke, for example. When we're there, he and I go out to have lunch and dinner and stuff and hang out. And then there's obviously Michael Galante, who we hang out when we're in Atlanta. I'm laughing because last time we were there, we went to this steakhouse. But we didn't dress up. We didn't realize it was a kind of fancy place.
Oh,
So he and I went with a t-shirt and jeans and we looked like we had just, I don't know, walked out of the gym or something. But we quickly realized that the people there recognized us. So it was like, hey, I guess they're not going to tell Vinny Malone how to dress.
I was literally thinking that.
That's the sense we got. We realized the waitress got a little nervous and they sat us right away, and it was like, it's a little odd. And it took a second to realize, oh, I think they recognized us, and they kind of reacting to us like we were these characters.
Dang.
That was interesting. That was an interesting little behind the scene.
It's the magic of those scenes. I mean, I'm just imagining it playing out in my head to actually be, just casually going out to lunch. You realize, okay, I think we're in an awkward situation, but then it's like, they know who we are. Well, they know of us from the characters who film on the show.
Sure,
I love that. I really like the fact that, I mean, Mama Rose runs the restaurant too. And I think early in the conversation, we talked about how when it comes to these cartels and whatnot, usually they have a lot of fronts, like they might be known for, killings and crime. But in reality, it's like a well-oiled Fortune 500 behind the scenes. Like there's so much activity going on. It's like, it's hard to even put into words. Like, I feel like cover up is too simplistic. Like if there's a crime, the feds can't pin it on the Malones because they have like a bunch of contingencies in place, or like a fall guy or somebody within the system to get them out if they ever get it, put behind bars. So I can only imagine what that spinoff could do, just going into the inner workings of what the cartel is.
It can go so many different directions. Like we were saying before we went live, is that especially the mafia in the 70s and 80s, man, they had their hands in the construction industry. They had their hands in garment industry. They had judges on their payroll. They had cops on the payroll. They were everywhere. And people thought, they're in the intimidating industry. But that was just one aspect.
Oh yeah.
Of it. They're running it like a well-oiled machine and like a big business. And that's what it took them a little bit to realize, wow. And I think, a spinoff could deal with all that, and the politicians and the one that wants to get them. There's a great documentary that we're talking about. Rudy Giuliani was a young DA at the time, and he wanted to bring down the mob, and he came up with this the way he interpreted, if I'm not mistaken, RICO, and he went, they were able to indict all the families at once, and it changed the whole business of the mob. So I think you can have all those aspects on a show, and it's really interesting. Because even though it's fictional, but it's very real.
Oh yeah, I feel like there, as you said throughout the interview, so many great documentaries and real world examples of how Tyler Perry could take it. Because what I liked about the haves and the have-nots, what really drew me into the show, when it first came on, like my mom was like, "Hey Jeremy, that new Tyler Perry show's on," because I think the OWN network was like a free preview for like a week. And after the first episode, my mom got on the phone, "Oh, we getting the OWN network," because the haves and the have-nots showed us a side of Tyler Perry that to be honest, a lot of people didn't know he was capable of. I mean, you had House of Pains, Meet the Browns. I never really watched For Better or Worse, because at that point, Tyler was really known for just Medea or comedic shows. But the haves and the have-nots just took it to another arena, if you will. I mean, just the drama. It's like, oh, he can do this kind of stuff. And then when you switch gears to Viacom, it's like the Oval, when it first came out, it was quickly compared to, let's say, the haves and the have-nots and sisters. Even before that first episode, people were like, it was giving them girlfriends or living single vibes. So when you watch the show, oh, it's something different. But when Ruthless hit, I'm like, okay, again, like the haves and the have-nots, Tyler's in another arena. So I feel like with the Malone series, I don't know where he would place it. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the haves and the have-nots is the only Tyler product on the OWN network, because If Loving You Is Wrong ended a few months ago and he's on Viacom now. So I think the haves and the have-nots, they extended it a couple of seasons, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And from there, I just wonder where a Malone spinoff would take place. Would it be a BET Plus series or a BET series? Or
Could you even do that? I don't even know if he could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, can you take these characters and put them in another network? I don't know legally if you could. I have no idea. Maybe he can. If he owns the characters, he probably can. Mm-hmm. And knowing him, he probably does own the characters.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know.
That's my answer for like 99% of the questions I get on a daily basis. It's like, is have and have-nots moving to BET? Is it go? Because when the deal was signed back in like 2017 and it was announced like mid 2020, all the shows would end, like If Loving You Is Wrong, Have and Have-Nots, and I think they said they would slowly phase out the shows, and then he would just be fully at Viacom. Is the haves and have? Look, guys, I don't know. There's so many things behind the scenes. Like you were just saying, the ownership of the characters, and like if he decided to use the Malones, could they just, again, like I think I mentioned this before, they could be Vinny, Mama Rose in another show, but they aren't the same versions. Basically, the Malones on Viacom would not be the same ones from the OWN universe, the haves and the have-nots universe. Like there are just so many.
You can pick it up 5 years later. You know,
Yeah,
things have changed. You know, it looks different. You have new characters. You introduce new characters who the audience quickly buys as these characters because it's a new show.
oh yeah. Because I
It
mean,
looks different. You know, you don't have the same bar, for example. You might have a nightclub now. Yeah, there's so many possibilities.
I can see that. There's just so, like you said, so many possibilities with that. And I just think that in the day and age we live in, I think Tyler Perry Studios really does stand. I mean, before, you know, the whole COVID and pandemic, you know, it stood out because he was like, I think it was the beginning of the year when he posted the video with all the scripts that he had, like for like a dozen different shows. Like I did this all by myself, and people were
That's
like,
impressive.
it was. People were like, "What?
He's
You don't
brilliant.
have a writer's room?" But
He's brilliant.
the thing is, it's like people looked at that, thought it was crazy. But when you look at the world we're living in now, him doing all that stuff actually was a benefit because of how quickly he puts out material. Because the industry is starving for new content, but with everything shut down, the Tyler Perry machine is like, you know, John Henry versus the locomotive or whatever the machine was in that story. I just feel like the Tyler Perry Studios, you know, format is the way to go, because I know that a lot of behind the scenes stuff was shown when he was filming Sister season 2, and they're currently filming the Oval season 2. Like he goes above and beyond to make sure people can eat, you know, by working and keep them safe during the pandemic. So that leads into the next question of, what are some of the upcoming projects that you are currently working on, that you have worked on, or is there anything that's coming, I guess you could say, in the pandemic era that we're in right now?
Man, I've been busy under under circumstances that you would think that, you know, I wouldn't be. I just finished shooting a film 2 weeks ago called Seventh and Union. And it's the first film, if I'm not mistaken, it's the first film in LA, in Hollywood, to shoot during the pandemic.
Oh.
So it's kind of historical in a way. We're the guinea pigs. So we got tested a bunch of times, and it's a great cast. Omar Chaparro, it's a huge international Mexican star, is the main character. I'm one of the main characters. There's Felipe Esparza, the comedian, which you can catch his Netflix special on Netflix, and he's got a new special coming up September 1st. Hilarious guy. You have him. You have Eddie Ganem, who was in Devious Maids. You have Greg Daniel, who was in True Blood. Beautiful cast. The kid in the film, he's fantastic. Man, directed by Tony Nardolillo and written by a guy who has my same exact name, except his last name is Torres with a S, with an S. Talk about possible confusion. And he wrote a beautiful script, and he's an excellent writer. And it's a new company that's put, you know, this is our first film, it's our baby, and that's gonna come out soon, I hope. And then I directed an episode of a project called COVID-19 Sins and Virtues. And basically what it was is they got 14 filmmakers, and they gave them a sin or a virtue. And you had to go and make a movie in your home with whatever you have available. So we can't have a crew. We can't, because obviously we needed to be in quarantine.
Yeah.
So each of us shot a movie. We haven't seen the other person's movie, and that's going to be released as one movie. 14 little films as one movie. So it's like episodes, anthology. So, and I have another project that I'm going to direct that my wife stars in. By the way, my episode was written by my wife, and she stars in it along with me and our cat Mochi. Mochi made his acting debut, and he steals every scene he's in. Let's put it this way. He didn't care that his dad plays Vinny Malone or anything like that. He, yeah, he didn't. He ad-libbed whenever he wanted to. Trying to find something here sorry that I'm looking at the phone. I'm trying to find something that I want to share because I want to get it right.
Okay.
So that's, and there's a few other things that I'm working on. I'm waiting on. There's a project there's a project that's being written for me, which is for me to star in, and it will be a TV show. Obviously, it needs to get picked up and all that, but it's it's written for me. So basically, the writer Cameron Young is writing to my strengths, and it will be the project will be amazing if it happens. But that wouldn't take me away from playing Vinny Malone. By the way, I'm still available for. That's the beauty of TV now. That's Juliet Obrador, by the way, is the kid in the film Seventh and Union, who's fantastic as well.
That's great.
So yeah, I'm very excited about all this, and hopefully we get more seasons of the haves and the have-nots in the future as well. But the audience is going to be the audience is in for a ride. The audience is in for a ride. It's hard to have an interview and talk about the show, and at the same time, I feel a little bit like God, knowing what happens in the future and not being able to discuss it.
That's why it's hard. I'm trying to, this entire interview, I've been trying, okay, let me think 3 times before I say something, because you know me, my thing is the theories, the reviews.
Yeah.
People like, yo, would you ever want to go to set? And I'm like, I would love to, but at the same time, I don't want to know anything.
It would ruin it for you at the same time.
Especially if it's like just one scene and there's a theory I've been thinking about for like 3 years and it gets like debunked right on the spot. I'm like,
and you see it right there. Ooh, I'm wrong. Or
I don't know what's satisfying. I mean, on one side, it's like, okay, the videos blew up. But then on the other side, it's like I spent 6 months chasing a theory that did not exist. But to see it play out, like just based on everything you described about the behind the scenes, I feel like I don't know if my eyes will be paying attention to the acting or Tyler doing his thing, because some of the little tidbits, because it's rare we get those behind the scenes shots. I know when the show first came out, they really did like a lot of cast interviews and whatnot on the OWN network, and they would have like little tidbits. Oh, Oprah came to set, or you would see Tyler behind the scenes, and I would just see like again, you only think of him as Madea if you grew up, and your first thing is like the plays and the movies. That's why I knew him best for. But to see him in the zone, I can just imagine it's another monster. I mean, you got gun-toting Madea 1 minute, but then you got the monster that is the Tyler Perry Studios machine when he gets behind the camera. Because the one thing that I can kind of tell from all the various casts from the different shows I've talked with, Tyler knows what he wants. So when he's in that pocket, it's done.
There's no doubt. I mean, if you go to a normal movie TV set, you have the director, you have the writer, who the writer is a producer on the episode that they wrote, and you have a staff of 7, 8 writers. So whenever your episode is being shot, you're a producer in that episode. So you have the director who's sitting behind the camera, looking at the scene when it's happening. Then you have the writer, and then you have producers, and it's just a lot of people. And there's a lot of voices, and the director is only there for one episode maybe, so you're like a guest director. Every director is like a guest director. You're not directing every episode, so it changes with the director. So the writer has a lot of power, as they should, because they wrote the episode, and the producer of the show. So the writer will tell the director, hey, can they do it again? That actor didn't say that line, and that line is important, and all that. As they should. He wrote it. A writer spends a lot of time thinking about the right word, the right line for everything to make sense. So that's their job. But in this case, Tyler's wearing all those hats. He's the producer, he's the writer, he's the director. So everything's, moving fast. He knows what he wants. It's his universe. It's his show. There's no doubt about that, you know. And he gets what he wants, and the guy's brilliant, and he moves very fast. He's fun to work with. He's fun, especially when he's liking to see what he's seeing and stuff like that. You can see him getting excited about the scene, and he'll throw. In my case, he'll throw lines. He'll say, "Hey, say this," because maybe I did something that he liked, so I gave him an idea. He lets you ad lib, as long as you don't go off, you know, and create a different story. He lets you. My first episode, there's a line that I said which was not written, and then I said it, and Tyler then threw a line afterwards. He thought of a line after what I ad lib, which I was scared because when I heard him say something from behind it's my first day behind camera. I'm like, ooh, I might get fired. I might get fired. I just said something in here, which was when Benny said that his tow truck, that he needed money for a tow truck. And I said, what happened to it? Did it get towed? I added that. That came, I thought of that right at that moment. Did it get towed? You know, I was, as Vinny Malone, I was actually like intrigued. What happened to your tow truck? You had a tow truck, now you don't have one. Now you need money for what happened to it? Did it get towed? You know, I thought it was funny. But I said a certain way, and then I heard Tyler, like, he chuckled, kind of like, he laughed. And then he says, now tell him that you're joking. It's a joke. And then you see Benny's reaction was like, huh. Benny doesn't know what to do with that line. You know, it wasn't written. He's like, you know, it's like, okay. And it worked beautifully because it was like, but that's, you know, that's working with Tyler Perry.
Yeah.
He lets you take those chances, and then he'll run with it. If he sees something that he likes, his mind is like throwing lines at you and like, hey, take his beer. One episode he says, hey, take his beer. I think Sandy's drinking a beer, and I take his beer, and I drink from Sandy's beer.
Yeah.
And that was Tyler that threw, hey, just take his beer.
Man, I love that because I know in the first scene, because Mitch, okay, I think it was like 40 or 45,000 that Benny wanted to borrow for the tow truck. And I know
Benny,
that there were like a dozen episodes where Mitch is like, don't do it, bruh. My family, don't get involved with it. Yeah. He just kept ignoring the signs. So I remember when he finally went down to the bar and met Vinny, and he was so nervous, like, you know, Mitch, it was all friendly, you know, it was everything but Vinny getting up and hugging Mitch. And then, you know, they both sat down, and Vinny's just sitting there like, oh yeah, because Mitch always say, okay, hey, this is my friend Vinny, wants a loan. He's like, hi, I'm Vinny. I already know that. It's like Vinny was just so cold in his delivery, but I just love that story about the joke because it just, that scene comes back to me because I just remember how Benny was so uncertain while Vinny was the cool uncle. It's like, okay, so my nephew brings you down, I'll at least hear you out, but it's like, man, you can't pay me back. No, and then Mitch vouches for him, and I think he's like, you know, this is Candace Young's brother.
Yeah.
Well, here you go. So.
Candace, really? Okay. We owe her one. You know, I'm a man of my word. I don't like them, but I'm a man of my word. So, yeah, I'll help you out. Of course, you don't pay me, I'll kill you. That's pretty much, you know, the subtext. So, yeah. Please, Mitch, remind him.
Yeah. We don't want to kill you in here. I mean, you want a tow truck, we'll be towing your body out of here if you don't pay us back. There you go.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. Which what makes that character so much fun, you know?
Yeah. I just love the random, again, it breaks the tension because I find myself laughing when I'm like trying to tweet. I'm like, oh, did he just say that? It just made the mood shift, but then he goes right back to serious. Like, oh, okay. He was joking. I wasn't joking. Oh, okay, we cool. But I just, like we talked about earlier, that Sandy and Mitch dynamic. So trying to think, okay, you know what? I had a question, but I feel like it could dance into spoiler territory, so I'll shift gears. We talked about almost everything except for like the possibility of, let's say, a Malone movie, or like Malone's popping up in a movie rather than like another network show or something like that, because I just feel like I know that he said the Medea family funeral was the last one, which is a shame because I remember watching it in theaters and it was one of the best Tyler Perry films I had seen in a while. I was just like, this is the last one?
It's hilarious.
And I feel like he's that's what made it one of the best. I feel like it was one of the best Tyler movies in the last few years where there was a good story. It had family and heart elements to it, but I think the comedy worked very well because I loved how the characters bounced off each other. So I know that on Netflix, A Fall from Grace, that I forgot how big that was. I know that Tyler said it had like
Huge.
21 something million in the first
something
few
crazy.
days. Man,
That's unheard of.
exactly, because it's once again a realm we didn't really think he'd go in. So imagine like a Netflix movie on the Malones.
I'm in. Where do I sign?
Exactly. And it's like, you know, if anybody from Tyler Perry Studios watching, a brother could be a stand-in. I could be in the background. I could be throwing out of a Malone bar like Jazz on the Fresh Prince. Ah! Like anything.
Be my bodyguard. You can be my bodyguard.
There you go. I don't know. I mean, how tall are you in person?
5'9".
5'7". I don't think that work out too well.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I mean, again,
There's a lot of tall people in that cast.
I was thinking to myself, like, would it be weird to ask how tall is Brett Mitch? It's like, I feel like that's a running gag by several characters.
Brett is huge. Brett is like 6'6". Brett is like 6'6", which I'm always telling, hey, sit down, man, sit down, have a seat.
on the floor.
I don't want to be looking up to him.
Exactly.
No, he's big.
Like, imagine, like, let's say I'm your bodyguard in a Malone movie. I don't know who Mitch is. Okay, I'm going to have to see some ID, sir. Really? You on your own, Vinny. That's it. I can't even. I can't even.
That's where you got to show him the gun. That's where you got to show him the gun.
He probably just knocked out my head.
It happened. I was on the show Kane that I was telling you on CBS.
Yeah.
It was my first big break. I was Jimmy Smith's bodyguard. Jimmy Smith's is 6'4", 6'5". So so it was, you know, it was fun. It was kind of funny to see me standing next to him, but I was playing a guy who's a killer. And the thing with him was that, you know, and I've known guys like this for real. They'll kill you. You know, it's like, it doesn't matter his size, he'll kill you. So that's where I came from when playing a role like this. That, you know, I'm like, okay, you know, you're big, but still, when you're laying down, you're the same size.
That's a very fair assessment there. I like that. I like that. Well, we could talk on and on, but like I said before, I'm just dancing on eggshells because there's so much I want to ask that would dip into the spoiler territory. But here's just one last question before I allow you to plug in social media and whatnot. And don't worry, I'll be sure to plug that in when I do an intro and outro so people know where to follow you online. But will we be blessed with a scene between Mama Rose and Vinny? I feel like we've been dying to see that.
Tune in.
Fair enough.
That would be good. That would be good.
Because I feel like Mama Rose, I feel like she knows what's been going on, but I feel like because she's been working on some other things and possibly leading to her arrest, which is not a spoiler, folks. The synopsis have been released everywhere. TV Guide, different articles, it's out there. I just feel like there's a lot to I feel like in a way the Malones will kind of take over the show if we have a scene where we have Mama Rose just learning, because I'm still sitting over here like, she's going to be in jail next to Catherine. That's what's going to happen. And she is, once again, planting the seeds of a potential spinoff. It's right there. It's right there.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
So guys, watch the show. We got, if I'm not mistaken, for the first time since the show came on back in 2013, we are getting 2 for the price of 1 starting 8 p.m. Eastern Time Central, August 25th, my birthday weekend. So this is a gift to me.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. The 29th. So what is it? 2 episodes of the Haves and the Have-Nots on the 25th. Medea's farewell tour coming to BET Plus on the 27th. Then my birthday on the 29th. It's a trifecta, and I love it. I love that.
And
So,
after those 2 episodes, if you weren't hooked, you will be hooked. That's all I can say.
dang.
That's all I can
Well,
say.
okay, well, I know the 25th, it's going to go down. It's going to go down. But this has been a pleasure. I mean, just thinking about characters, I know I got to see if I can get Mr. Derek, a.k.a. Keith Burke, on here in the near future, because up there with
I'll
the
talk to
Malones,
him.
I think Derek just,
Vinny will talk to him.
well, if Vinny
Vinny will
says
talk
it,
to Keith for you.
okay, if Vinny says it, I know what's going to happen. Just, I'll make sure to pay more attention to the rules and regulation, unlike Vinny. All right, but before we
I
close,
just want to be executive producer of your show, you know? Vinny's the executive producer of your show. It's not an offer, I'm telling you. I'm the
okay,
executive producer of your show.
you get no debate from me, that's for sure. But before we close, could you tell the good people where they can interact with you and follow you on social media, Twitter, Instagram?
Oscar Torre, actor.
Okay.
Very easy. And I try to respond to every question. People write me all the time. I try to respond. Of course, when you write me asking me about spoilers, I when you don't get a response, I can't respond.
Exactly.
But I will say, tune in or something. But I respond. I respond to every message I get. It might take me a while, but I get to it.
And I respect it. Like, I remember the neck stabbing episode. I'm like, is he dead?
That was tough. That was tough because people kept writing me. My family kept asking me. My family was like, "Hey, did you die? Are you going to be on the show again? Is that it?" I'm like, I don't know. Tune in. I mean, you can't tell them.
Oh man, that I can't even imagine. Like, imagine, let's say I'm in like one episode and I fall down some stairs. Jeremy, is that it? I don't even know. Tune in. We'll both find out together. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for joining in. This has been a treat. I mean, August 25th can't get here fast enough for me. But also, one last thing I forgot to say. I wish I would have said this earlier. I know you said you worked on other projects. You directed some films. Are there any films? 'Cause I know we talked in the past about this. Aside from like Amazon Prime or Netflix, are there any pieces of work out there that fans could go watch you on right now, like on Amazon or Netflix or Hulu?
Yeah. If you go to Amazon, and you put my name, you'll see a bunch of films that I've starred in or been one of the leads. You will also see a film called Pretty Rosebud. It's a drama about an unhappy woman in her marriage, and it's an interesting film. I directed that film, and my wife stars in. My wife Trudy too stars in it, and she wrote it as well.
Okay.
And so I directed and I acted in it. I play a little different role than Vinny Malone. I play an ex-boxer who's a physical trainer in the film. It's kind of like an edgy, sexy drama.
Perfect. All right. Well, I like the range in that. Well, once again, thanks so much for tuning in, folks. Hope you enjoyed the interview. It's a little bit of a have and have not taste before we get the real thing on the 25th. And also remember, if you're having withdrawals from the show, every single episode of the show is on Hulu. From The Big Surprise to Bananas Foster, every single episode. So with that being said, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Keep that for your money, all right?
We'll be here waiting for you.
Yeah, don't wait
Whenever
too
you're
long.
ready to come all in.
You in that raggedy ass car too.
Hey, you watch. One day I'm gonna buy myself a new car, but with my own money.
Yeah.
All right?
It's a freaking Boy Scout. I don't understand.
He'll be back. He'll be back.
It better be.
All right, and once again, thank you to Mr. Vinny Malone himself for allowing this interview. It was great. Just so you know, throughout the interview, if it looked like I was about to smile or laugh, I was literally trying to hold it in because there were some moments where I wanted to ask a question, but I had to catch myself because I didn't want to dip into any kind of spoiler territory because, as you all know, this channel is all about not just reviewing these shows, but also going into the theories about where the show will go in the future, like, you know, what's in store for the Malones. But I really do hope you all gravitated towards the conversation about the potential for a Malone spinoff, or having the Malones inserted in different Tyler Perry properties, whether it be like on the Oval as a different cartel family, or maybe in a movie or something along those lines. I've already done a couple of videos over the past year or so where I talk about the potential behind a Malone spinoff, because the Malone family themselves have, in a way, become one of the mainstays of the series. When you think about it, it isn't just the Young, Cryer, and Harrington family. The Malones have been playing slowly increasing, basically their role has been getting bigger as the show has been going on. It wasn't just Mama Rose, you have her nephew, her son, you know, other, you know, grandchildren. It really does show that Tyler Perry, if he can make a show like Ruthless that really caught us off guard, that's a dark show, why not do like a mafia like show or movie? I think it could happen. So once again, make sure you are in front of the TV 8 p.m. Eastern time to watch the double episode back to back, however you want to call it, 2-hour event for the Haves and the Have-Nots part 2 of season 7. And wow, this is just, I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. I mean, that trailer alone has me hyped. Let's just hope that the trailer was just a small taste of the drama we're supposed to get, because remember, this was labeled the deadliest season yet, and well, there were a lot of guns in the trailer, so that could mean we might actually get some legit deaths instead of, oh my god, somebody got shot in the finale, will they live in season 8? Well, who knows. Well, with that being said, thanks so much for tuning in. Hopefully I have another interview lined up in the near future, and once I get a couple more of these done, I'll create a playlist on the channel, because let's see, Desiree Ross from Greenleaf, Caroline Harris from Bruh, Oscar Torre from the Haves and the Have-Nots. I wonder who's next. You'll just have to tune in to find out. So once again, guys, thanks so much. Shout out to the patrons over on Patreon who support me over there. You can join in for as little as $1 a month. There's a link to my Patreon in the description below. Or if you'd like to donate to the channel via Cash App or PayPal, feel free to do so. It's not an obligation. Please don't feel like you're forced to, because trust and believe, you watching this video, subscribing to the channel, and even hitting the thumbs up button helps me out in more ways than you can ever imagine. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you next time.